Test 1, 2, 3. What up? Alright, so one of the questions I get asked most about when it comes to writing is naming characters. Naming characters is one of the hardest things. They should not sound the same as other characters. They should be easy to say or read because they're reoccurring throughout the novel. They shouldn't be anything ridiculous that no one in their right mind could ever figure out how to say. But a million other rules to it, and it can be really hard. So these are my tips about naming characters. Step 1. I'm going to bring that up again. The name is going to be coming up again and again and again. Don't make it something really hard to read. And that goes for first names, but last names can be as wild as you want. Those are whatever, because those don't have to occur as much. But first names should be fairly easy to read, and this isn't an excuse. You cannot take that as an excuse to not use ethnic names. That's the word. Ethnic. Hispanic characters can have Hispanic names, and they can be easy to read and understand. So that's not an excuse for trying to make people of color characters sound white. Sorry. Next up, giving the name meaning. That's always fun. It's fun to have that. It doesn't always have to have meaning. Obviously, the name Harry Potter doesn't exactly have a meaning that I don't think J.K. Rowling intended. And plenty of other characters in Harry Potter didn't have meaning. Some did. Remus Lupin? Subtle. But yeah, it's fun to put meaning into the name, and this brings me into my next thing, finding meanings for the name. I use quite a few websites to help me find names. Behind the Name is one of them. That's really good for if I'm looking for a name that means something specific, because it's a foreshadowing thing for a character. I definitely use Behind the Name, and that also works for last names as well as first names. There are baby naming websites that are good for that. Nameberry is one of them. That one only works for first names, though. There's, if you want something specifically, like it's gotta be posh, it's gotta sound like it's from a fantasy world, it's gotta be alien, you can use, I forget what it's called. There's another website. I'm gonna put a link in the description. I'll put links to the websites I use in the description, I promise. And then for side characters, I like to use this thing called it's just a character name generator that I will also put in the description, where you can just put in a race, a gender, you click create name, and it gives you a whole character description. You don't need to use that, but it gives you a name, first and last, which is really helpful. Then offline, this is where it gets weird. Graveyards. Yes, graveyards. You gotta have one nearby, right? So get off your butt. Go out to your local cemetery, graveyard, burial spot, and look at all the tombstones. Write down the names. Go at an appropriate hour. Don't be doing this at 10 o'clock at night. No, just go at a good daylit hour and write down some names and do some mix and match and see what works out. It can be really fun. I actually wrote down a while back some names. I'm never going to use them because they're all so French. But when I went to Paris, and we were at Père Lachaise Cemetery, I wrote down some names. And a less weird thing that is still offline, yearbooks. Just look at your old yearbooks. Obviously, I have access to ones from the 30s onward, which is super helpful. But if you don't, you can just use your own yearbooks. Just, pop them open and see what makes a good last name, what makes a good first name that you might not have thought of. And so, I'm sorry I've been spinning so much in this video. But yeah, all good things to use. And of course, if it needs to be a specific decade, you can just look up most popular baby names of 1980 something. Middle names, real quick before I go. Middle names are not necessary unless you want to have one of those really awkward parent moments where they do the first name, middle name, last name, yells at the kid type of deal. But they're not necessary, so don't stress over them if you think you have to, because they're totally optional, and the only reason you should have to figure out a middle name is if you actually want to use the middle name in the story. But it's really easy to get around just not using it, and a lot of people don't have middle names, so you don't have to worry about it. Well, that is all that I have to say on the matter of naming characters. I hope this is helpful to you guys, and I will see you Thursday.